Have you ever turned on your smart TV, ready to relax after a long day, and suddenly it feels like you're using a computer from 2008? The remote lags, apps take forever to open, Netflix buffers even though your internet is fast, and scrolling through the menu feels like wading through mud. And here's the frustrating part. You probably bought that TV only a few years ago. Across the United States, millions of people are asking the same question. Why is my smart TV already slow? And do I really need to buy a new one? Because if you walk into any electronics store in America today, you'll see the message loud and clear. Bigger, brighter, faster. A brand new smart TV for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But here's the truth that most people don't realize. In many cases, your slow smart TV isn't broken, and you might be able to make it feel dramatically faster in just a few minutes. Today we're diving deep into what's really happening inside your smart TV, why so many televisions in American homes start slowing down after a few years, and most importantly, the simple fixes you should try before spending hundreds of dollars on a replacement. Because once you understand what's going on behind the screen, it completely changes how you look at your TV. Let's start with why this problem has suddenly become so common. Over the last decade, smart TVs have quietly become one of the most complex devices in the average American household. In the past, a television had one job: display video, that's it. But today's TVs are basically giant smartphones mounted on your wall. They run operating systems, they install apps, they connect to Wi-Fi, they stream 4K video, they update software, they collect data, and they try to run dozens of background processes at the same time. In the United States alone, tens of millions of households rely on smart TVs for almost all of their entertainment. Cable subscriptions are dropping, streaming is dominating, families are watching Netflix, YouTube, Disney+, Hulu, and dozens of other apps directly through the TV. And that shift created a hidden problem. Most smart TVs were never designed to handle years of heavy app usage. The processors inside many TVs are relatively weak compared to phones or computers. Manufacturers often include minimal RAM and storage because it keeps the price low. And when you combine limited hardware with more demanding apps and constant software updates, things begin to slow down. This is especially noticeable in homes where the TV is used for hours every day. Menus start lagging, apps crash, loading times increase. And suddenly, the TV that once felt fast now feels outdated. But here's where things get interesting. Many Americans assume that the slowdown means the hardware is dying. In reality, that's often not the case. Most smart TV slowdowns come from software, storage issues, background processes, and simple settings that quietly build up over time. In other words, your TV might still have plenty of life left. To understand why, we need to look at how smart TVs actually work. Inside your television is something very similar to a small computer. There's a processor that handles calculations, memory that stores temporary data, and internal storage where apps and updates live. When you open Netflix, the TV loads the app from storage, processes the interface, connects to the internet, and begins streaming video. But unlike your phone, many TVs have extremely limited resources. Some models have only a few gigabytes of storage and a small amount of RAM. That might sound fine on paper, but once you install multiple streaming apps, system updates accumulate and cached data builds up. The system starts running out of breathing room. Imagine trying to run 10 modern apps on an old laptop with almost no storage space left. Things begin to slow down. Menus take longer to respond. Apps hesitate before opening. And sometimes the entire system freezes for a moment while it tries to catch up. Now add another layer. Many smart TVs constantly run background services, recommendation systems, advertising software, automatic updates, data syncing. Each of those processes uses a little bit of memory and processing power. Individually, they seem harmless, but together, they can make your TV feel sluggish. And here's the part nobody talks about. Some TVs actually get slower over time because the software ecosystem keeps evolving. Streaming apps become more demanding, interfaces become more complex, features expand, but the hardware inside your TV stays exactly the same. It's like trying to run the newest smartphone apps on a device from 5 years ago. Eventually, the gap becomes noticeable, But before you assume the only solution is buying a new TV, there are several fixes that can dramatically improve performance. The first one sounds almost too simple. Restart your smart TV, not just turning it off with the remote, a full reboot. Many televisions in American homes run for weeks or even months without ever fully restarting. They stay in standby mode instead of actually powering down. That means memory can slowly fill up with temporary data. A complete restart clears that memory and forces the system to start fresh. For many users, this alone can make menus feel noticeably faster. The second fix involves something most people never check: available storage. Over time, apps install updates, download data, and store cached information. Eventually, the internal storage becomes crowded. When storage is nearly full, the operating system struggles to manage files efficiently. Deleting apps you rarely use can free up space and reduce system load. In many households across the US, smart TVs end up with dozens of installed apps that were opened once and forgotten. Removing them can instantly improve responsiveness. But here's where it gets more interesting. The biggest performance improvement often comes from clearing cached data. Streaming apps store temporary files to speed up loading times, but after months or years, those files accumulate. Clearing the cache forces apps to rebuild those files cleanly, which often eliminates slowdowns or glitches. Many users report that their TV suddenly feels faster after this one step. Now let's talk about updates. This might sound counterintuitive, but keeping your TV software updated can significantly improve performance. Manufacturers regularly release firmware updates that optimize system behavior, fix bugs, and improve compatibility with newer apps. However, some households disable updates or simply ignore them. Running outdated firmware can cause apps to behave poorly or struggle with newer streaming standards. Updating the system ensures the TV is running the most optimized version available. But here's where things start getting serious. If you've tried all of these fixes and your smart TV still feels slow, the issue might not actually be the TV itself. It might be the apps. Streaming platforms constantly evolve their interfaces. They add animations, autoplay previews, recommendation engines, and personalized content feeds. All of those features require processing power, and older TVs simply weren't built for that level of complexity. This is why many tech enthusiasts in the United States eventually take a different approach. Instead of replacing the entire television, they bypass the built-in smart system completely. They use external streaming devices. Devices like streaming sticks and small media boxes have much more powerful processors and faster software. When you plug one into your TV's HDMI port, the device handles all the apps while the television simply acts as a display. Suddenly, the slow TV interface disappears. Navigation becomes fast. Apps load quickly, and streaming becomes smoother. For many households, this solution costs less than $100 and completely transforms the viewing experience. But here's the part that often surprises people. Even brand new TVs sometimes benefit from external streaming devices, because TV manufacturers tend to focus their budget on display quality. The panel, the brightness, the resolution. The internal computing hardware often receives far less attention, so even a high-end television can have a relatively modest processor inside. And that's why some of the smoothest streaming experiences come from using a dedicated streaming device instead of the built-in system. Now, of course, there are pros and cons to all of this. On the positive side, smart TVs made streaming incredibly accessible for American households. You can buy a television, connect to Wi-Fi, and instantly access thousands of movies, shows, and videos without additional equipment. The convenience is undeniable, but the downside is longevity. Unlike traditional TVs that could last a decade without feeling outdated, smart TVs are tied to software ecosystems that evolve rapidly. Apps grow heavier, interfaces change, support eventually ends, and consumers are left wondering whether their perfectly good display has become obsolete. Public opinion on this is surprisingly divided. Some people see it as the natural pace of technology. Devices improve, software evolves, and upgrades are part of the cycle. Others argue that televisions should last longer and remain responsive for many years. There's also growing discussion about digital sustainability. Replacing a television every few years contributes to electronic waste and increases consumer costs. That's one reason why the idea of separating the display from the streaming hardware is gaining popularity. A great screen can last many years, but the smart software running the apps can be upgraded separately, and that approach may actually shape the future of home entertainment. Looking toward the end of this decade, experts expect smart TVs to become even more powerful and connected. By 2030, televisions will likely integrate advanced voice assistants, AI-driven content recommendations, cloud gaming services, and even deeper smart home control. Some companies are already experimenting with televisions that behave more like giant tablets, constantly updating and integrating with other devices around the home. But the fundamental challenge will remain the same. Hardware ages, software grows more demanding, and consumers will always need ways to extend the life of the technology they already own. Which brings us to one final question. What should you actually do if your smart TV is slow today? If you're a student, the smartest move is usually avoiding unnecessary upgrades. Try the simple fixes first, restarting the system, clearing storage, removing unused apps. And if performance still isn't great, a budget streaming device can completely transform the experience without draining your wallet. If you're a working professional juggling a busy schedule, the fastest solution might simply be bypassing the TV's internal system altogether. Plug in a streaming device, connect it to your Wi-Fi, and you'll likely notice smoother performance immediately. If you run a small business, restaurant, or office using smart TVs for displays or customer entertainment, keeping the software optimized and using external streaming hardware can reduce downtime and extend the life of your screens. And for everyday consumers across the United States, the key takeaway is simple. A slow smart TV doesn't automatically mean it's time for a new one. Sometimes the solution is just a few settings away. Sometimes it's a quick cleanup, and sometimes a small device can unlock performance your TV never had before. So before you spend hundreds or thousands of dollars replacing your television, try these fixes first, because the screen hanging on your wall might still have years of life left in it. And understanding the technology we rely on every day is the first step to making smarter decisions about it. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden side of everyday tech, make sure to subscribe to TechVibes for more stories about the technology shaping our lives. And now I'm curious, has your smart TV slowed down over time, or is it still running perfectly? Let me know in the comments, because the next big tech story might already be sitting in your living room.